This is an explanation of the Design Your Own exhibition assignment for Art 115. This assignment replaces a Unit 3 thematic essay and any type of cumulative exam. What you're going to do is, based on a theme that you'll choose from a list I've already prepared, you're going to design an exhibition that features artworks from all 3 units of our course. You'll choose the objects from our textbook. Your exhibition is going to have an introduction that makes an argument about the theme and relates it to your objects. Each of your 6 objects, 2 from each unit, will have a label that details the object's subject matter, style, function, and context, while also relating the object to the theme. The first part of this assignment is to choose your theme and the objects. So this is the list that I put together for the history of graphic design. The first one is What's Old is New, Graphic Design and Historicism. Communicating a Good Time, Graphic Design and the Entertainment Industry. The Politics of Posters, Graphic Design and Propaganda. Graphic Design and Technological Innovation. Trends in Typography. Graphic Design and Narrative Communication. So these are deliberately broad. What you should do is pick whichever one you think sounds most engaging to you. After you've selected a theme, you need to choose objects. So you are going to choose 2 objects from each unit. I've got a list here that's very specific about which chapters are included in each unit. For each object, you want to include complete object information taken from the textbook, like the example I have here. You may include an image if you want, but that is optional. You're going to submit your initial theme and objects as an assignment for feedback, and I have a sample submission there that you can use as a model. The next step is writing the rough draft. Based on my feedback to your initial theme and object selection, write an introduction and 6 object labels. The introduction will be 200 words, and each object label must be at least 100 words. So the introduction is really just an explanation of the theme. It's a 200-word description of your theme and what the viewer learns about this theme from the objects you selected. Here are some things you could ask yourself as you're writing this. How have graphic designers responded to this theme over the period that we've covered in this course? What stylistic strategies appear most frequently? How have design approaches to your theme changed in different contexts and historical periods? You could also consider looking in the textbook index, in its glossary, or in the analysis that Eskildsen uses for your chosen objects. The essay should be in the 3rd person. You do not need to do any external research or citations. So in the sample that I put together, I chose the historicism theme, and what I did is I just paged through the book and I found examples from each unit that rely upon historical styles. So of course the Kelmscott Press Nature of Gothic is an obvious choice, and then for Art Nouveau they use Rococo, so that's a good choice of contemporary artwork pulling on a historical style. It was a little harder in Unit 2, and so I leaned into typography because technically sans serif is kind of a historical style there because it was big in the early 19th century. And so I looked at 2 different ways of modernizing sans serif. And then in Unit 3, I looked at music posters that pull in styles from Art Nouveau, and then the very intentional historicism of some of the postmodern advertisements that we'll be looking at. For each of the objects, you're going to write a 100-word label. This is a pretty short label, and you will be discussing the subject matter, the style, the function, and the context of each object. And you want to think about how it relates to your overall theme. I have a sample version of this in Canvas that you can use as a model. Here is the one that I wrote for the Nature of Gothic. So notice that I'm starting with just the most brief biography of William Morris in the last decade of his life. William Morris established the Kelmscott Press in order to reform book design in a manner parallel to his earlier practice in furniture design. So one sentence says that his goal is to reform book design. He'd already done this in the past in furniture design. The next sentence, 30 years earlier, Morris made a name for himself for his critique of low-quality factory manufactured objects. He argued that all objects should feature good design, and he pointed to the workshop practices of medieval artists as a model for the type of craftsmanship that should appear in modern objects. So my exhibition is all about the integration of historical styles into modern objects. And so you can see that coming out in that sentence. This medieval style reappears in The Nature of Gothic, a Kelmscott book featuring handmade paper and interlacing designs similar to 8th century manuscripts. Morris created a new typeface called Golden, which he based on the old-style type of Nicholas Jensen. While his call for good design in all objects was compelling, Morris's refusal to use 19th century printing methods meant that his actual products had little influence on later designers. And so that's kind of my push towards my next object, which is going to be the Art Nouveau poster that does actually use modern printing methods. So you are going to submit that as a rough copy. I'll give you feedback, and then you'll submit it again as your final copy at the end of the semester. This is the grading rubric. It is very similar to the rubric I've used all semester for your writing. However, it's broken down according to section. So there's an introduction, which is worth 30 points. Each object label is worth 10, and then the presentation is worth 10 points. If you have any questions at all, please do reach out. I'm also going to make a discussion based on this that you can use as a resource as well.